forward. Robotics. When the astronauts go to St. Hubert, they're given 2 weeks training to learn how to operate the robotic arm. We were given 2 hours, and then we were evaluated. So it was a tough ask. But that was probably one of the most fun events that we did during training. Because what we had to do, we had to do a docking exercise. There's an evasive exercise that you have to do as an astronaut, which they actually time you on. You have to. There's a module that's about to crash into the space station. You have to grapple it with the end effector of the Canadarm, and you have to get it out of the way in 90 seconds. You've got 90 seconds to do this, otherwise you fail. That's what one of the tests we had to do. So we've got Chris Denny here. He was one of the guys who got to the last 16. That's what he's doing with the instructor. So you got a one-on-one with the instructor. They show you how the Canadarm works, and then they say, right, you've got a free session just to practice one grapple. So you have the satellite that you have to grapple, and that's all you have to do. And it is a real, I mean, if you're a pilot, I guess you've got some advantage there, but it's really, really tough. You're working in 3 dimensions, you have to grapple this end effector, and there's a time lag between your inputs and what the end effector does. It's a 3-jointed arm, right? So so imagine you want to pick up a glass of water, send the command to pick up the glass of water, nothing happens for 2 seconds, so the impulse is to make the command again, but of course that's the wrong thing to do because of the time lag. So it was a demanding task. We had I think 2 or 3 chances to do that, to grapple the satellite, and then the last one was to fly a circle with the robotic arm, and that was really, really tough. If you ever get a chance to, and again, I tried to find this program on Google. When I couldn't find it, I phoned up MDA because I was working with MDA at the time. And I knew they designed the robotic arm, so they should really have the software for this, but they didn't. Because I was thinking, okay, well, I can gain an advantage now. If I go to MDA, I can practice on their system and maybe have an advantage over the other guys. But you just can't find this on anywhere. There's no program on the internet that simulates Canadarm. So that was robotics. So the final 31 went to Halifax, and this was a lot of fun. We actually had representatives from NASA and Japan and the European Space Agency all lined up around here because they were interested in how the Canadians were selecting the astronauts, because this had never been done before. This was the toughest astronaut selection by any space agency ever. So one of the tasks was helo dunking. So this is basically how you think under pressure. So one of the divers crawls in with you when it's dry, and they say, right, the first test, you're going to be sitting in the pilot seat, and then what you're going to do, you're going to drop the dunker into the water, turn it upside down, it's going to fill with water, so you want to take a deep breath, and then to get out, you're going to put your hand on the dashboard, you're going to put your left hand on the back of the seat, you're going to egress behind the pilot's seat and the co-pilot's seat, use your left arm to unlatch the window, push the window out, egress through the window, and then make your way to the waiting diver in the survival raft. Each of those has to be done in an exact sequence. Each of those actions gets a certain number of points, plus it's timed. And each subsequent exercise was more and more complicated. So for the first one, it was just 8 points, 8 separate actions, out you go. So you strap yourself in, you've got the 4-point harness, you're sitting in the helo dunker, down it goes, turns upside down, whole thing fills with water, you're upside down, and of course, because you're upside down, your weight distribution has changed. So when you instinctively go for the dashboard, it's actually up here because you're upside down, right? So that all changes. So you do that 3 times, 3 different exercises, and they don't tell you how you did. You have a good idea of how you did. If you fail, they ask you to do it again. I didn't fail. I think a couple of people did. After that, they have you climb up to the 10-meter board. 10 meters is a fair distance, and they set the wave simulation in motion. So you have a sea state 5 or sea state 6 that you're going to jump into. So all you have to do is they're going to say, right, we're going to give you 3, 2, 1, jump. When we say jump, we want you to jump into the water and then make your way into the raft, and it's timed. So that's all you do. You just jump. It's obviously a confidence test, right? So can you listen to commands? In the parachute regiment, they drill this into you. So when they say go, you go. Because when you're in a Hercules and you have 45 people on each stick, that's 45 people starboard, 45 people port, and you have 90 people to get out of the aircraft quickly, you have to go. So if you're the number one in the stick and you don't go when they say go, there's a big problem. So this is completely instinct on my part. When they said go into the water, off you go into the survival raft. There's a survival raft, you just clamber into that and they stop the clock. So that was the test there. Survival systems, you can pay and do that. Go to survival systems in Halifax and they'll be glad to take your money and put you through a helo dunker if you get the money to do a course. And if a good bunch of British guys who run the course, I'm pretty sure if you go there as a group they'll give you a discount. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. Something else we did was firefighting. I did this as part of my naval training. You have to do 2 weeks in damage control school. I did mine on the west coast. It's an identical facility on the east coast in Halifax. You're dressed in bunker gear, just exactly like a firefighter. You go into these flame trenches, and these flames go all the way to the ceiling. You work as a team. You have somebody on the, you have a nozzleman who's directing the nozzle. You have somebody as a backup who's behind you. Obviously, holding onto each other all the way. You can only do that for about 90 seconds before you actually get drenched in sweat, and then you shout backup. Somebody comes along and takes your place, and you just cycle through until you put the flames out. If you're not following the proper techniques, people on the control in the control room will just increase the flames. So, and sometimes they'll just do it for the hell of it, just because they like to put you through hell. So sometimes these flames all the way to the ceiling. So what we do, we'd fight a fire, completely drenched, and they say, right, now you have to fight a flood. So you go to the flood area, and just when you think you've finished fighting the flood, they say, right, you've got to get dressed in your bunker gear again. We've got a fire in section 8 or section 2B. And the flood control, this is all set up like a ship because it's designed for the Navy. So it's just like going into a ship. You've got the bulkheads, you've got the hatches, you have the combing, just like a normal ship. You have all these are the fire mains. So what they would do, I knew some of the tricks because, like I said, I've done this for 2 weeks, twice. Because you do it on an annual basis. You have to be retrained to be requalified every year. You have to go back to damage control school for at least a week or 2 weeks. So I knew some of the tricks they used to do. So, for example, here we have the fire main. The fire main's gone, but down here there's a cut-off valve for the fire main, but they don't tell you that. So as soon as they sprung the fire main on us, I went over to the cut-off lever and slammed it shut. Sure enough, the water stopped. They didn't like that. So a lot of breaches here that they can breach. And you can see where they've patched it up. So they just initiate another one, and then the instructor comes along and says, look, you're not allowed to use that. That's inoperable or whatever. Or you can't use it. So this is not just one event. We fought maybe half a dozen fires. We fought maybe half a dozen floods. The worst flood, and it's freezing cold water. I haven't got a picture of this, but if you go on the Canadian Space Station's website, there's one compartment where we're up to our chins in water. We've been fighting this flood for half an hour. One guy in my group was taken out with hypothermia because he was so cold, couldn't function. I was pretty close to not being able to function. I've got 6% body fat, and I've got very little to protect me. So I was very, very cold. And you have to try and patch these holes using the techniques that they've shown you, which is basically shoring. Now, shoring is just cutting sections of wood in certain angles and certain configurations to press against a bulkhead that has water behind it, and that's what we were doing. So, if you imagine this to be the compartment that's flooding, you take an inventory of the types of breaches in the hull or the compartments, and you're thinking, okay, well this particular breach needs this particular type of shoring, and you send one of your friends up to the next deck. They cut the shoring, they bring it down. It's very, very messy. It's and of course, while this is being done, the compartment is filling up with water. So it is very stressful for real. I mean, and you're being evaluated as well, of course. in between the fighting the flood and fighting the fire, we did a